I survived 100 days in medieval Minecraft where I raided castles, fought bosses, and settled down to build my own custom village with a flourishing population. If you do enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing because it really helps me out more than you think. Jumping right into it, I spawned inside of this new kind of village that I've never seen before, which was right by the ocean that had a pirate ship in it, and next to that was a pretty big sandy looking village. So I took a few of the village's sweet berries and then I went to steal all of their belongings, starting with some of the bookshelves and a blue bed, then a few hay bales and a chest with actual garbage inside of it, but I took it anyway. While I was going through the other houses, I noticed I got this achievement even though I didn't do anything, and it told me a seagull stole some of my bread, and me personally, I can never take that level of disrespect, so of course I obliterated him with my wooden sword and took his feathers to put on my wall later so I'll never forget about the precious singular piece of bread that I'll never get back. So anyway, right after that, I got some more bread from this chest. I guess maybe I was a little too harsh on that seagull. I don't know. But I found some more chests with some random stuff, as well as finding a random leather helmet that I stole. So that dude's gonna come home later and realize his hat's gone for some reason. The last few houses didn't really have anything worth noting, but after I finished looting, I accidentally discovered a mechanic in this mod pack, which I thought was a dash, but it was actually a roll with a pretty cool animation in F5. It was a little laggy sometimes though, so I wasn't sure how useful it would be for me. After messing with it for a while, the sun began to set, so I slept in one of the villagers' sweaty beds to skip the night. I woke up on day 2 and it wasn't even 30 seconds of daylight when I already got more bread stolen from me from these stupid seagulls that I couldn't even reach. After that, I looted more of the village houses that I missed, and I found a saddle which ended up being super useful in the future. Then I got ganged up on by like 4 seagulls and managed to get a couple pieces of bread back from them. I decided to travel to that sandy village I saw from spawn to see what was there, and immediately I found this little greenhouse with a bunch of wheat, carrots, potatoes, and beetroot that I stole, and I did replant them. I went through some of the houses and there was a lot of bread in the chests along with some other decent stuff. Almost every chest had cactus and dead bushes in them, which is pretty wild if you think about it. Imagine storing a bunch of cacti in a box for safekeeping. But anyway, it started to get dark outside, so I barged into this house and slept right next to this husband and wife that I've never met before. When I woke up, I found this camel at this like central area of the village, so I used the one saddle I got from spawn and I decided to travel with him since it's definitely faster than running. I also named him Jeffrey. Everybody say hi, Jeffrey. Okay, someone just clicked off the video. Anyways, nothing really crazy happened for a while, but I finally punched my first tree after 4 days of Minecraft, then made some basic tools like a pickaxe and axe, then continued my voyage through the desert until I found this little structure which was like a wandering trader camp thing that had another camel, so I stole some of his hay bales while he stared directly into my soul. He also had some other stuff like golden carrots and golden apples and paintings, but soon after I kept on exploring with Jeffrey through this wasteland looking biome, and I found this ruined portal which had a bunch of bone blocks that I took because bone meal is super useful. In the chest there was some typical loot like golden tools and then iron nuggets that I turned into my first iron ingot. After that I came across this giant colorful structure that I've never seen before, and when I got close I got this achievement that told me it was called a Bandit tower, so of course I had to check it out. But pretty soon after I started getting shot at by this pillager that had a firework rocket crossbow that did some crazy damage, and since I didn't want Jeffrey to catch any strays, I just went inside the building and set my spawn point because I'm not traveling like 1,000 blocks by foot back to this spot. I did find this barrel close by that had a ton of iron inside, and then I also saw this spawner that seemed to not be working, so I broke it just in case. There was a ton of these barrels on the first floor with iron, gold, and some other random stuff. Then there was this chest with some actually interesting stuff like a new sword called an Uchigatana, which apparently is from the Dark Souls games that I still need to play in my lifetime. And there was also a Fire Protection 3 book, a Fortune 2 book, and an iron helmet in there. But while I was putting on the helmet, I was rudely interrupted by another one of those pillagers, which turned out to be 2 of them, and I quickly realized that it was a really good thing that I set my spawn earlier because I got 2-shot by some fireworks. Luckily, it wasn't hard to find my way back, and the mod pack had one of those gravestone mods where it was really easy to to get my stuff back. I found the pillager from before wanting to get my revenge, but I realized that you can't use your shield while holding this new sword. So I took a hit, and I also had some big frame drops during the fight, and I guess we ended up killing each other somehow. When I went back, there was already another pillager just waiting for me, so I grabbed all my stuff and ran, even though I couldn't pick up my armor at the time. There was a chest close by, so I got a bunch of iron and a chest plate that I put on, and then when I went back to grab my armor, I somehow got hit by a guy outside. These pillagers have some crazy aim. I think they have like a few thousand hours on Kovacs or something. I decided to run to Jeffrey and escape that place for the time being because I had a very full inventory and I needed to find a home base. Luckily, there was a village really close by, so I quickly looted all of their belongings and started setting up a temporary base inside of one of the houses, putting all of my items away in a chest. After crafting iron leggings, a sword, a pickaxe, and an axe, I made my way back to the Bandit towers to see if I could get some more loot. The first thing I found was this room with a spawner that I broke and a chest with the usual iron and gold. Then I found my way inside one of the main towers where there was this big dining hall with a pillager spawner. I had to 1v1 another one of those firework crossbow guys, and he somehow was able to do half of my health even though I had full iron armor on. So I found a way out of the window where there was another pillager just waiting for me. No idea how that dude got there, but I ate some bread to heal up, and then I ran to find another building doing the laggiest water bucket clutch of all time. I used my water bucket to get up to this red tower where there was a spawner waiting for me, so I took out the singular pillager that spawned, and then I was able to break the spawner without any problems. Right next to it was a barrel with really good stuff in it, like my first 2 diamonds, some obsidian, iron armor, and then the usual iron and gold ingots. After finding another easy spawner and a chest, I found yet another way to get into a new building because I still wanted more loot. The first 2 barrels I found had a ton of iron and weren't guarded by any mobs, but when I went upstairs there was a pillager that I killed pretty easily, as well as a spawner that I broke. And when I went up to the next flight of stairs, I found these new types of skeletons with axes and full armor, so I retreated downstairs to give myself some space. Then I tried to place down some water to slow them down, but my game crashed. I don't even know what caused that, to be honest. When I loaded back into the world, I somehow wasn't dead, and I managed to run away from the skeletons and block myself into a room. One of them followed me over there, and I killed it pretty easily, but he did not drop anything good at all. After that, I pillared up to see if I could find some more easy loot before calling it quits. So I got into another room with a spawner that I broke, and then I looted a couple barrels that had a ton of gold inside. Then I just started finding a ton of these barrels that were apparently unguarded until I stumbled upon a room with this 1 spider in it and a really good chest with 2 diamond chest plates. Finally found something that wasn't just iron and gold ingots in a chest. After that, I was going across this random bridge when I found another chest with more new stuff. A Lure 3 book, a Fire Aspect 2 book, as well as something called a skill book. I had no idea what that even was, but I picked it up anyway. I did some more exploring and I was spotted by this firework pillager that turned into 2 pillagers, and then there was this random skeleton that showed up behind me, so I ran for it and blocked myself in with like 4 hearts. Honestly, I was kind of sick of this place, so I dug down and placed water so I could safely get out of there. And right as I was escaping, a pillager followed me out, so I was just forced to leave with the water bucket again. Very successful trip though. I got a ton of iron and I never want to go back to that place. On day 7, I went out searching for cows for leather, and right by this jellyfish looking tower thing, there were 4 of them, so I bred them up and killed them, which gave me more than enough leather. After that, I took some green wool from the village and crafted myself a green backpack to give me some extra space in my inventory. Mojang, please take notes, add this to vanilla. I also discovered that in this mod pack you could actually upgrade the backpack with the same materials, but I just didn't have enough leather yet, so I decided to pack everything up in a small backpack and hit the road with my boy Jeffrey. It wasn't long before I found another group of cows that I humanely one-shot, and then I turned my backpack into a medium backpack, which literally gave me a double chest on my back, so that's insane. After that, I found a bunch of villager knights grouped up nearby nearby on horses and stuff. Luckily, they weren't hostile, and they gave me the option to hire them for something. I wasn't really interested in that at the moment, so I made my way to that jellyfish tower I saw earlier, and I decided to climb up the top of it with Jeffrey, which I quickly realized was a terrible idea because a weird-looking zombie came down and attacked Jeffrey, hitting him twice, so I left the area so I could park the camel somewhere else. After a full night's rest in the middle of the jungle biome, I gave Jeffrey some cacti that I got from the village to heal him. I wanted to give him a proper 2x2 hole to stay in for the time being, but somehow one of the zombies followed me all the way there. I decided to put my bed down to set my spawn just in case I died, and that gave me enough confidence to actually have a full fight with this guy and kill him. Not too long after that, another one showed up, and I killed it relatively easily. Then I parked Jeffrey into his 2x2 hole, and then I went to check out the tower by myself. There was instantly like 5 zombies that showed up, and since these guys have so much health and take no knockback, I had to use a strategy of hitting them and then backing up because they had pretty predictable attack patterns. Like, they kind of wind up their attacks before they swing, so it was really only a matter of time before I killed them all, but they did get some good hits on me while I had my guard down. I also tried out that other sword I got from earlier, and it wasn't too long before I killed them all, but I don't really know how much better this sword actually is. I went back up the tower where a skeleton was waiting for me, so I hit him off the edge, and 2 more were guarding the first floor. They were a little bit annoying, but I took them out and was rewarded with a chest with some random stuff, plus an iron sword with sharpness 2 on it, so that was definitely an upgrade from my normal one. Next, I found this ladder that led me up to the next floor that seemed to just have a ton of chests on it. The first one had another one of those skill books. This time it was called a Sword Master book, but I still didn't know what that meant. It also had enchanted iron leggings and just iron ingots. The next barrel had an Unbreaking 2 book and enchanted boots. Another chest had an enchanted iron chest plate. The next few had more enchanted gear as well as these skill books again, so I took a second to see what these were actually about, and by the looks of it, they boost different stats like damage and attack speed. So I learned the attack speed one because you can only have 3 skills apparently, and I didn't know if you could replace them or not, so I kept the other ones and just stuck with 1 skill. There was also another floor with a bunch of iron and a diamond, but after that I packed up my things and left that place to find some more structures. Probably about 100 blocks away was this rundown zombie castle that had these really weak zombies and some really random loot. Like, what even is this chest? I went inside the place and found an Unbreaking 1 book in one of the barrels. This room was like a sketchy looking work room with a bunch of skill books in the chest. Then I found a basement with a zombie spawner, so I killed the singular zombie that spawned and broke the spawner. After that, I saved these 2 villagers from prison, but I was rewarded with some more actual garbage in their chest. But other than that, there really wasn't anything left in that place, so I left. Me and Jeffrey spotted a jungle village in the distance, so we went to check it out. I first discovered this random monument with 2 iron blocks that I stole. Then I started looting the houses, getting a couple useless enchanted books, a few pieces of bread, emeralds, and of course a bunch of random garbage. After that, I realized I had enough materials to make the biggest type of backpack you can make, which gave me so much space that I didn't even know if I could fill it all. I also came across this random evil chicken that I didn't even realize was a boss until it shot like wither skulls at me, and for some reason Jeffrey decided to just run towards him after taking a hit, and luckily I had a bunch of cacti in my backpack, so I healed him. Then I went to fight the chicken, and I'm not really sure why, but he did not really fight back at all, so I just got a free infinity book out of that, I guess. Anyways, I decided to head out after that, and I came across this house in the forest where inside one of the barrels were a bunch of bows and arrows that I took, and then some pillagers with swords showed up, so I guess this was like a training building or something for them. I climbed up to the attic of the house where there was some goodies and barrels. Nothing too crazy, like more arrows, iron, food, and leather, so I left pretty quickly afterwards to continue my journey. About a day later, I found this massive castle in the distance that seemed to have a bunch of angry pillagers hanging out around it, so I parked the camel in a 2x2 hole and went to check it out. I took out the first pillager pretty easily thanks to my new bow. Then I went to take a look inside. Instantly there was a vindicator, but he couldn't reach me, so I killed him. This first room had a bunch of chests inside and gave me a lot of mob drops, which I only really took the arrows, bones, string, and gunpowder, as well as the occasional iron and gold ingots. The next room I found was a library with a chest in the middle that had some new enchantments called Bounce and Backstabbing, but after taking out 2 crossbow pillagers that I stumbled upon, I found a room with a Vindicator who was hiding in a corner, and these guys are definitely pretty tough to kill just because of how fast they move, but this guy wasn't too bad. And inside the chest were some books and food. Some more guys showed up after that. I think it was a Vindicator and like 3 crossbow guys, but I had a pretty long battle with them, and I finally managed to kill them after taking a few hits. I broke into this random wall and found an interesting room with another Vindicator in it who was guarding an ender chest and an enchantment table, so I grabbed my only 3 diamonds I had from my backpack to craft a diamond pickaxe so I could break the ender chest and get the free 8 obsidian. After that, I got absolutely jump scared by another axe dude who got some really good hits on me, but I did get him back with my pure skill and intellect. There was also this other Vindicator that genuinely almost killed me, getting me to half a heart, but I remembered that I'm extremely knowledgeable on the game of Minecraft, so I just placed a block, and that dude was so stunned from my greatness that he just stood there while I killed him with my bow and arrow. After that, it was pretty much smooth sailing. I found another one of those chest rooms with the mob drops, fought an absolute army of crossbow pillagers, and then I accidentally came across the actual boss room. Inside were these weird blue pillagers who could walk through walls, and I realized there were 4 of them, but only one of them was the correct mob you could hit, so I could only do damage if I hit the actual guy. That was until 3 of them just walked through the walls and kind of left the arena, so I didn't really know what to do about that. And then I went to go break the wall, and I guess I accidentally killed the boss with my pickaxe. So that was extremely anticlimactic. I was rewarded with gold armor that I did not take, a couple emerald blocks from the throne, and literally nothing else, I think. Looking back at it, maybe there was supposed to be loot that dropped from the boss on the other side of the wall, but I didn't really think about it at the time, so oh well. After that, I ran into some more pillagers, and one of them had a banner, which means it gave me bad omen when I killed it. I didn't think much of it at the time because I thought I could just drink milk, but you'll see in a second. I finished looting everything in the castle, and on day 15, I found some cows to drink their milk from and get rid of my bad omen effect. But when I drank it, the effect literally just didn't go away. I was extremely confused because I didn't even know there was a mod that made it so you can't do that. And I tried multiple times. It still didn't work. I don't know why. So I just decided to leave with Jeffrey and deal with it later. We first stumbled upon this weird tent village, but it didn't seem to have any villagers, so a raid didn't start. I did get to loot their chests though and got some alright stuff. After that, I found this peaceful looking farmhouse that I really liked and wanted to settle down at, but I somehow forgot that I had bad omen, and I triggered a raid, which was super laggy for a second there. I did still really want to settle down there, so I decided to set up a base close by, and then I went to take on the raid. It started off looking like a normal vanilla raid until I saw a modded pillager with a weird weapon, so I knew this was going to be a rough experience. I actually tried to cheese it and lead one of the last pillagers out of render distance or something, but he somehow managed to pathfind all the way back to the raid, so I guess I should have tried to trap him somehow. I tried to do the same exact thing with a different pillager, but this guy wouldn't even leave like a 100 block radius, and when he went to walk back to the raid, nothing stopped him from getting to his destination, not even me punching him. So clearly whatever mod this is was against my tactics, so I just decided to fight the raid legit. The second phase started, so I pillared up to the roof of the house to get high ground, and that made it really easy. Somehow they were still able to come up the stairs and get to me, but since I didn't have unlimited arrows, I needed to use my sword anyways, and by the end of the day, I thought the phase was about to end, but when I went to sleep in the bed, some crazy looking cougar thing jumped at me and did some big damage, getting me down to 1.5 hearts. This thing was insanely fast. I thought I wouldn't even get away, but after a few bow shots, I finally got him. Anyways, the next day, the third phase started, and I decided to make a little dirt tower to camp in for a little bit. There was a ton of mobs this time. Like, there was a Ravager I shot at for a bit, but all the pillagers stormed the roof of the house, so I just spammed them with arrows. I was able to use my sword a little bit, but I was kind of worried about the crossbow guys hitting me down. But once I got all of them, it was pretty easy to take every sword pillager out. After killing the Ravager with the bow and arrow, I was able to kill the last guy with my sword, and then phase 4 started. This one already had a ridiculously overpowered mob. There was this pillager with a bow who would just run away from me, but when he hit me with an arrow, it gave me some kind of bleeding effect that did a crazy amount of damage over time, which killed me pretty quickly. I also forgot that I set my spawn in the house, so I had to awkwardly run past some pillagers with my spawn protection to get my stuff back. I had to run past another cougar and like 2 or 3 pillagers, but I did manage to find my gravestone and then set my spawn at the home base. The cougar followed me all the way there, so I did the good old shoot and run method to kill it. When I came back, this weird beam of light or something was doing damage to me, and I had an effect called Deathbound, which I think that's why I took damage, but I don't even know. So anyway, I was killing another pillager when this freaking god mage showed up at the house, and he was mad. The best thing I could do was run away, but he was summoning some crazy wall of soul fire. Then there was, I think, an evoker that summoned birds that were throwing stuff at me. Like, man, how did it go from a semi-normal pillager raid to me fighting off some supervillains from some random farmhouse in the middle of nowhere? After that, a dude with a greatsword showed up, so now I was basically fighting the Grim Reaper's long-lost cousin that wanted me banished from the mortal realm. You know, I thought this was gonna be a calm little normal mod pack, nothing too weird to deal with, but come on man, I'm battling against some Avenger level threats who, for all I know, could open up a portal to the multiverse, and all I want is to just live in this rundown wooden shack. But after what felt like 100 hits on this maniac, I finally killed him and I was able to sleep away the night. I started day 18 by killing a few easy mobs like the axe guy and the normal pillagers, but I quickly learned that the poison from witches are no joke in this pack. They last an extremely long time, and after running away, another one of those firewalls appeared, but I was so distracted by the poison that I almost missed this pillager that followed me. Luckily, I was able to kill him, and the poison effect went away after what felt like a full 2 minutes. I went to check out this direction, and God showed up again to punish me. I'm pretty sure he two-shot me while being like 30 blocks away, so that was cool. I got my stuff back pretty easily somehow, then I tried to actually fight him by shooting some arrows, but once again he snapped his fingers and disintegrated me and lagged my game. The next attempt I tried something new and built up to get high ground while also being farther away from him to shoot more arrows, and I guess that worked because I think I killed him. I looked around the area because I didn't actually see any death particles, but yeah, I guess that's how I killed a god from an accidental Minecraft raid. I don't know if I actually beat the raid or the villagers died and the raid ended or something, but now I have some free real estate, so that's a win in my book. Oh yeah, also there was this guy with a banner that I missed, and he gave me bad omen again. So, whoops. I tried drinking milk again, and what do you know? It didn't go away. But before I dealt with that, I decided to clean up the farmhouse since I placed a bunch of blocks for the raid. Then I looted the chests that were here, which I was lucky and got 2 diamonds from one of them. There wasn't really much else worth noting though. I also moved Jeffrey from his 2x2 hole to this fancy animal pen that was already here. After that, I finally started to settle into the house by putting in some double chests on the 2nd floor, and I was able to unload all of my stuff in the backpack as well. So after a bit of renovation and finding this secret sign, I got the place looking actually pretty good and organized. Oh yeah, also on day 20, a wandering trader showed up at my house who had something called an origin grass block. So I took that as well as a spruce sapling because I didn't have any spruce wood nearby. But I placed down the origin grass block to see what it was, and it seemed to just have the OG grass block texture or whatever. And when I broke it, it just went back to normal dirt. So I was really questioning my purchase for a little while. But anyway, I finally decided to take care of the bad omen problem I've been having by doing what I do best, traveling like 500 blocks away and absolutely wiping out an entire population of villagers for absolutely no reason at all, then leaving just as fast as I arrived. I truly wish them the best, but we both know their fate. On the way home, I found this other village that I took all their hay bales from. I also found this weird looking castle, and when I went inside, there were a bunch of undead guests who attempted to defend their throne, but unfortunately for them, I used to play Hunger Games when I was like 11 years old, so I knew a thing or two about PvP, and it was pretty easy to take them all out. Inside of the chest were some random decent stuff like a bunch of arrows, a power 1 bow, flint and steel, shears, a toothbrush, a chest full of potion ingredients, and a golden apple. After that, I ran into this suspicious looking wall, which gave me a SpongeBob advancement, and by the looks of it, it was a pillager camp of some sort. I started by sniping the evoker first, because he would have definitely been an issue later, and then I killed all of the normal ones pretty easily. I was rewarded with a bunch of loot that you would find in pillager outposts, which makes sense, I guess. There were also more of these skill books that I learned, but I still didn't really know how to use them. Not too long after that, I left with Jeffrey, and we spotted this flying airship with a super long ladder, so I went to check it out. I climbed all the way up to the top, then opened the door, and I was met with an empty room as well as an empty cockpit with some redstone dust on the floor. When I went up the ladder to the next floor, there was also a room full of nothing, and there seemed to be a few operating rooms to fly the ship, and I found a chest full of redstone components inside. I'm sure Mumbo Jumbo would really like this place, but unfortunately, I'm not Mumbo Jumbo. I took the stuff anyway, though. There was also this skeleton spawner in the same room that I didn't even notice because it wasn't spawning anything. There was also this creeper that blew up somehow, even though I definitely should have hit that last one. Anyways, I broke the spawner and moved on to the next rooms. I finally found some signs of life when I found a functional skeleton spawner that spawned some axe guys with armor who were absolute tanks. Like, these guys took at least 10 hits to kill for some reason, but eventually I got the first group of them and broke the spawner. Speaking of broke, I broke my sword because of how many hits it takes to kill these guys, so I literally had to craft a new one mid-fight. I fought the rest of the skeletons, and then I explored the rest of the place, finding more redstone stuff, and just a bunch of random items like usual. After that, I found this group of skeletons that were holding flint and steels, and they literally just did not fight back. For some reason, they were really chill, until you got too close to them, I guess, but they were still pretty funny to me. I didn't know what the mod creators were thinking when they made these guys, but anyways, after walking past a bunch more chill dudes, I found this chest that I couldn't open, but it highlighted this phantom through the wall, which when I broke the wall down, I realized it was actually a boss called Churs the Quick. I think that's how you pronounce that. There is no vowels in the name. Maybe that's how some people were named back in medieval times or something. I don't know, I didn't really care for history class in school. After mostly spamming arrows at him while he was slowly burning from the sun, I killed him, and he dropped a few items that fell all the way down to the ground. So I opened the reward chest, which honestly didn't have super good stuff other than an enchanted iron helmet. I jumped out of the ship to see what Churs the Quick dropped, and somehow I was given an enchanted book called Enchanted Book. I didn't even know this was possible, but I literally got an enchanted book with no enchants on it. You could see my visual confusion, but honestly, that's cooler of a find than like anything else I've gotten in this video so far. After one of the adventures of all time, I headed home with Jeffrey to drop all my stuff off that I've gotten from my backpack, and on day 25, I decided to head out once again, but this time, I just wanted to see what was around the area next to my house, because there was still a bunch of structures nearby. I first visited this village that was super close, and somehow there was a pillager there. After investigating, there was a tent in the middle of the village, but since I exterminated all of them, it wasn't a problem anymore. As a reward for saving their village, I took all of the villagers' belongings as well as all of their hay bales. Next up was this random well in the middle of nowhere that when I looked inside, it had these weird particles coming out of it, but it didn't look like anything was actually there, so I didn't even bother looking. After that, I came across this really nice looking town. Inside was some actually decent loot. Like, I got a few enchanted books right off the bat, one of them being Feather Falling 4 and Impaling 4. They had a bunch of these houses with food in them, so I took all of the bread I could find. In the blacksmith chest, they had the usual iron gear, so I took all that as well as the anvil because there wasn't any diamonds. I left the village shortly after, and I stopped by this ruined stone castle which had a boss bar on screen, so I went to check it out. Inside were a bunch of zombies and skeletons, so I did my best to take them out from a safe distance without getting hit very much. Once I killed them, I was able to get into the barrels, which had a ton of halfway broken iron armor and swords and stuff. After that, I found a sketchy looking staircase down to some kind of basement. I immediately found a skeleton riding a skeleton horse, and when I did damage to him, I realized he was actually the boss called Sir Marrow. There was also a creeper that tried to fight me as well, and honestly, he was harder to kill than the actual boss because this guy was terrible terrible at connecting hits for some reason. But finally, after like 50 hits, I killed him and he dropped basically nothing. And there wasn't anything else in the basement other than a few jail cells. Up the stairs were a few more rooms with a ton of skeletons just chilling, so I took them out pretty easily. Then there was a bigger room with a sneaky skeleton spawner inside of a closet with a chest that had arrows and more used armor. After that, I left and found a new structure relatively close to home, like probably about 200 blocks away, and it turned out to be a nice little tavern where a bunch of villagers were hanging out. I honestly thought it was just a normal building with no real purpose other than having villagers, but then I found this secret staircase behind the counter that led down to this sketchy looking cellar. It had a bunch of these wine barrels with super random items like glistering melons, glass bottles, and fire charges. Then I found another room with more and more barrels of weird stuff inside. And then there was another staircase, which meant this basement was going to be massive. This time though, there were actual mobs, so I killed all the zombies and creepers, then continued down this maze of a structure. In the first room downstairs, I found another barrel that had actual beer in it. I didn't drink it though because I think I'd get nausea 3 in real life if I played the game with all the effects for 4 minutes. So anyway, I kept on exploring, finding a bunch of gold and iron ingots in the barrels, as well as this written book and quill in one of the rooms. If someone wants to pause and read this whole thing, then give me a ChatGPT summary of it. That would be great because I am not reading all that. The next door had a little surprise of some new skeletons that were holding some kind of potion, and they were extremely tanky. They did some big damage as well and almost actually killed me, but luckily I blocked them out just in time. When I killed them, they dropped the potion they were holding, which did damage and gave me nausea 6 for a few seconds, so that was annoying. But I killed that group, then kept on going through the basement. I found the spawner and was able to block myself in so that I could break it and also kill the skeletons without them being able to hit me. After taking care of those guys, I came across this room, which looks like some kind of Dr. Doofenshmirtz's evil scientist device that turns a villager into a pillager. Then I kept going down the rabbit hole of this place, and I'm gonna skip past all the boring walking footage because this basement went on for what felt like forever, and it was honestly a pretty underwhelming experience. So to summarize, I found a lot more barrels, and I only really took the iron and gold because everything else was pretty useless, including this black hole potion, but I took it because I thought it looked funny. Back at the surface, me and Jeffrey stumbled upon another new structure. This one was like some sort of Japanese style of building with these ghost looking mobs that look like No Face from the movie Spirited Away. Like always, these guys were super tanky and took like 15 hits to kill, but when I did kill them, they dropped a splash potion that gave me a blinding effect. These guys were pretty slow, so I did manage to get out of there, close the door, and break the first spawner. After finding a barrel with food in it, I broke into the side of the building to try and get an easier way into the second floor, but a few ghosts were waiting for me. Luckily, they couldn't get to me though, so I very slowly killed them with my iron sword. I had to speed that video up by 5 times. That's how long it takes. Inside the chest was a diamond, so I'd say it was worth it. After that, I broke the spawner, stole a golden apple from their dining table, and didn't find anything else because this place kinda sucks. What didn't suck though were the blocks used in the structure because the builder in me noticed an extremely large quantity of red nether bricks used on the roof, and since I planned on building my own stuff in the video, I took just about every red nether brick in this place, as well as taking a bunch of these mangrove logs, which looked exactly like acacia logs because of the texture pack, but I promise this is mangrove, the best wood in the game. I do not care what anyone says. After like a full day of decimating the entire roof, I ended up with a solid amount of blocks that I could bring home with me to use later. I then decided to gather more materials for the first building, starting with a ton of oak logs from a nearby forest. Then I started a mine right underneath my house so I could get a lot of cobblestone. I also ran into a cave, so I mined some dripstone, diorite, and granite. Next, I took a break from all that mining to check out a village I saw in the distance a while ago, and I don't know why, but this recording was super laggy. It didn't look like this when I was playing, so I'm just gonna speedrun this part. Inside their chest was a comically large amount of flower pots. I stole several stacks of their walls because quartz bricks look really good in this texture pack. I found an enchanted book called Straddle Jump 3. No idea what that does. After that, I found spruce trees and got a few stacks of logs. Okay, finally the slideshow lag is over. over. So, back at home, I started clearing out a pretty decently large size of land close to the base because I wanted to start building my first building of the new town. You heard that right, I'm going to be building an entire town. This first structure isn't going to be a house though. Well, I guess it kind of is, but it's a stable for Jeffrey to live in, and it's going to be pretty big because I want my camel to be living a lavish and extravagant life. On day 38, I started by laying out some posts for the fence on the outside of the building, using oak logs and then filling in the gaps with regular oak fences. Then I added slabs on top of the logs so that Jeffrey can't escape. I also laid out the base of the actual stables building with cobblestone. After that, I was checking out different textures of granite in the game when I realized I needed to craft a mason table to do all that. But to be able to craft a mason table, I needed a clay ball. So I took a trip to a nearby swamp biome to take about a stack of clay. Then at home, I crafted the table and placed it down. There were so many different options that I was kind of overwhelmed, but I ended up choosing one called vertical cut granite as one of the main blocks of the building. Next, I finished the base of the stables, made this little extension thingy, then started placing the new granite blocks on top of the cobble. After that, I started on the roof of the actual stables part with red nether brick slabs, and I did a slight incline on it to make it look a little interesting. Then came the back wall of the stables with regular oak planks. On day 41, I made a nice trim using oak logs to kind of separate sections so that I could use different blocks. And so I used oak planks again on the top half of the building. After that, I added a little stair roof on the right side to change it up a bit. Then I continued the oak planks on the top half of the building, making holes for the future windows and kind of just freehanding it and seeing where it goes. Next was the actual roof, which wasn't really anything special. It was just kind of a normal slanted roof. So I kind of just kept changing stuff and taking a big step back to see what it looks like, then changing more stuff. I also did some texturing with other granite blocks and changed out the floor from grass to a type of cobblestone block. On day 48, I was able to finally take a look at the mostly finished product for now. It definitely still needs some windows, but the next day I went on a quest to find coarse dirt because I was going to make the camel pen look kind of dirty and textured. Plus, I was going to be using it a lot for the rest of the video. I did stumble upon this random biome with black sand, which wasn't what I was looking for, but I took some of the stuff anyway because it kind of looked cool. Anyway, I didn't find any coarse dirt, but I did find a ton of gravel on this beach biome that I took because you can actually craft it with normal dirt plus gravel. Then on the way back home, I came across this random big patch of coarse dirt, so I took as much as I could. When I got back, I changed out a ton of the grass for coarse dirt to make it look like an actual animal pen. I also placed a bit of tall grass and ferns in there to add a bit of extra detail. Then I was finally able to bring Jeffrey into his new finished enclosure. I started working on a nice little pathway up to my house with coarse dirt mixed with spruce planks when I realized Jeffrey could actually climb over the fence somehow. So I tried just adding slabs over it, which obviously didn't work because fences are the same height as that. So I completely destroyed the fence and made a new design that uses slabs instead of the regular fence block, and this one actually worked. On day 54, I continued working on the pathway up to my house, which I finished in one day. The next morning, I started laying out the roads for the town I was going to be making with the shovel right click. It wasn't long before I realized I had some serious terraforming to do because the landscape was pretty rough and inconsistent. So over a few days, I made a really big, smooth, and flat area where I could actually build on without much trouble. After that was done, I laid out more of the pathways, then started outlining spots where I wanted all the houses to go using oak planks. Some of the houses I wanted on angles, some were straight, but generally I wanted all of them to look pretty rectangular so they wouldn't be too annoying to build because I was going to have to build like 8 or 9 of them. On day 60, I needed more materials, so I headed out to a nearby forest to get an absolute ton of oak wood since that was the main block I was going to be using. After that, I decided to finally put my 32 levels to use and make a full enchanting setup with all the materials I had, and I enchanted a diamond pickaxe getting Unbreaking 3 and Efficiency 4, which was absolutely perfect because it meant I could go find another one of those structures from a while ago and take all of the red nether bricks because I was going to continue using them for all of the roofs of the houses. I got home on day 64 and started working on the first house. This one was really important because it was going to establish the style of what all the other houses in the town were going to look like. I'm going to try not to spend too much time showing the whole building process because I'm sure it's pretty boring, but I decided to go with a pretty basic oak house with a base of regular oak logs, and then of course the red nether brick roof made out of mostly slabs and a chimney made out of cobblestone. I also like to add these little window ledges with fence gates and trapdoors. On day 67, I took a short trip with Jeffrey to find that black sand again because I needed glass for the windows, so I grabbed a ton of that stuff. When I got back, I placed some furnaces and smelted it down, then placed in all the glass panes, which had a really nice texture with this texture pack. Then I finished the exterior by placing in the door. After that, I decided to add a little animal pen in this open spot because it really felt like something was missing there. Then I found some cows in the wild and lured them into the pen with wheat. Next, I worked on the second house, which was a really small one that took me a while to get the roof right for some reason, but eventually I settled for the most basic stair design, and after putting in the windows, I was pretty happy with it. After that came the third house. This one was slightly on an angle and was pretty similar to the first one. Honestly, the only thing I really changed was the placement of the windows and the door. I also made the chimney have a campfire in it so smoke would come out, and it ended up looking something like this. The next building was a little bit of a different shape. This one was kind of an L shape, so I decided to make it like two separate sections. One was taller than the other, so the roofs looked a little bit interesting. I didn't really spend that much time on that one, so on to the next house. This one's pretty much the same as the last one, but facing a different way and has a different roof. This one used stairs on the lower part, and on the higher part was slabs and looked mostly pretty flat compared to the other houses. Then I put in the windows and the little ledges, and it ended up looking something like this. Moving on to the next one, this house is in the back corner of the town, and it was another slightly angled house. Not really anything special, but I did add 3 little roof windows, which ended up looking pretty decent. I honestly really like this one. Next house is a pretty small one, so I speed ran it. Literally just a basic rectangular house with a slanted roof. Kinda just a filler house if I'm being honest. On day 80, I noticed my village had some uninvited visitors that weren't very nice. This time I actually made sure the pillagers killed their own banner guy so I wouldn't get infinite bad omen again. Anyways, after that I decided to make one final house in this open spot because I felt like something was missing. This was another small one that was super basic. Again, kinda just another filler house. I also finally decided to actually use the mangrove wood by changing the texture in a carpenter's table to something that actually looks like carpet and putting it as the floor for all of the townhouses. Somehow that took about 2 full days. On day 84, I crossed out another task from the to-do list and changed out all of the path blocks in the town for coarse dirt and spruce planks because the path blocks were just guidelines for where I wanted the roads to go or whatever, and I think it looks way better like this. I'm honestly not even a fan of the regular path blocks, and since I was doing all that digging, I thought I might as well use one of my diamonds on a shovel and then enchant it, which I got efficiency 4, unbreaking 3, and fortune 3, which is perfect. That definitely made it a whole lot faster to dig, and I was done with all the paths pretty soon after I started. Next on the list, I mined a bunch of cobblestone so I could craft a ton of walls and place them all the way around the entire town because I was going to bring in villagers pretty soon and I didn't want them to either escape or die from random zombies. And I also made sure to light the entire thing up with torches. On day 89, I sheared as many sheep as I could find in the area because I was going to need some beds if I wanted villagers to be living in my town. I was able to make like 9 beds, so I placed them down inside all the houses. Then after that, I left to humanely steal some villagers from nearby settlements with a boat. This farmer was the first lucky volunteer. When we got back home, I had to make a makeshift dirt railway so he wouldn't try to escape. And eventually he did accept his new reality, so I gained my first citizen in my town. I went back to the same village and grabbed a Fletcher this time. I brought him back home without any trouble at all, but the farmer almost actually escaped this time. After that, I decided to go back to this villager tavern place again to attempt to steal a guy from here because I didn't want to just have villagers from one village. You know, I wanted some diversity in my people, almost like I was trying to collect the infinity stones of villagers. But this was a nearly impossible task because I had to travel uphill and I couldn't go uphill on a boat, so I kind of just prayed that the guy would pathfind up to the next block. After a while of trying, I gave up for the time being because it was dang near impossible. I will be back though. Mark my words. So I traveled to this other nearby village, which was maybe like 200 or 300 blocks from home, and I found this guy with a sword who was patrolling the place, and I really wanted him, so I brought him back home, and luckily the way back was almost entirely flat, so it was actually pretty easy to bring him there in a boat. So that's 3 villagers down. On day 92, I tried giving one of the villagers a bunch of bread, but this dude just was not hungry and kept walking away. So instead, I gave it to another dude in hopes of them giving me baby villagers to make more citizens for my town. After that, I remembered one of the newer mechanics in the game where you can actually lead boats, which meant it would be a lot easier to bring back some more villagers from different places. So I went back to that tavern to try and get one, and yeah, this method was ridiculously easy. Literally all you had to do was build up 2 blocks and then jump again, and the boat just flies up a block. Literally makes no sense, but I'll take it. Oh yeah, also this chicken wandered in the boat, so I kind of just brought him back as well. Someone give this guy a name in the comments. But when I got home, I set them free, and then I noticed that the villagers actually had babies, so the town is steadily growing in population. I went back to the tavern to get one more villager from there and brought him back home, and then I went back to the other village to grab one last guard to bring home. Next, I placed a bunch of these little torch stands to light up the town because there was a pretty good chance mobs could have spawned, and then I crafted a ton of bread to give to all the villagers once again to increase the population, because everyone knows bread is where babies come from. And it definitely worked because there were already a few toddlers running around. On day 95, a massive group of people showed up at my front door. I have no idea what caused these guys to spawn, but I wasn't even mad because that meant I had even more citizens. So yeah, I kind of just let them roam around the place and settle down. After that, I decided to spend the last 5 days decorating the entire town because it definitely felt like a lot was missing. So I started by placing flower pots on the window ledges of the houses, which looked really good. So I decided to go out in the plains biome and grab more flowers so that I could plant them in the open grassy spots in the town. I started by placing alliums in one area, then in another one I put dandelions. After that, I noticed some ruckus was occurring in the streets, and I have no idea why this was happening, but one of the villagers was straight up getting jumped by 3 guys on horses. I really watched a murder happen right in front of my eyes, and I did nothing to stop it. I mean, maybe he did something to deserve it, like he could have insulted their moms or something. I don't know. But either way, I decided to make a grave for him to let him rest in peace or whatever, and to remember the tragedy of day 96. I also made sure to add the wooden sword he dropped into a chest. After that traumatic experience, I spent the entirety of day 97 placing down flowers in a bunch of empty areas. This time I used different flowers like cornflowers, roses, and modded ones called wildflowers. This made the place look infinitely better. Next, I went back around the entire town to place down a bunch of bone meal in areas where there weren't really any flower patches, like spots behind houses and stuff where there was nothing going on. I also made sure to get rid of the tall grass and most of the flowers it spawned because I really wanted the normal short grass everywhere. After putting some finishing touches, like placing ferns down for plant variety, I kind of just took a nice walk around the town because I was honestly really happy with how everything turned out. It looks especially good at nighttime with all the lights and stuff, so I couldn't help but just appreciate how good it looked. On day 99, I did some extra final touches, like adding little wooden water bins for all the horses and other animals to drink from, because there were so many horses just roaming around the place. I also added a bell I got from a while ago to one of the houses. There was one last thing that the town was missing, so I quickly searched for some wild pumpkins, and when I got back, I spawned in an iron golem to not only complete the town, but also to protect it from any mobs that try and invade. So now that I finished everything, I took the final rest in my bed, officially making it to day 100. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this one, then don't forget to like the video and subscribe because it really helps support my small channel. Also, if you made it this far in the video, comment the words "Hi Miguel," because my friend Miguel's been asking me to make this video for like a full year now. But yeah, that's about it. Okay, love you, bye.